What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Crash Course Metal Show. I'm your host, Crash, and we have again here with us our buddy, Chris Elliott from 86 Bullets. What's going on, brother?
Not much. How you doing, man?
Good. So, last time you were on the show, we kind of thought of some different topics to talk about, and you brought up an interesting thought that I never really sat back and gave a lot of thought, which we thought this would be perfect for a bonus track edition episode of the Crash Course Metal Show. So basically what the topic is here is that who saved Kiss in the early 80s when they were going through their different, experiments, you can say, with their music and such, and the band was starting to split. The originals were starting to split apart. Which member came in, replacement member came in and saved Kiss? So, Chris, I know you had two that are heavily on your mind, but give us a little bit of background here. What kind of do you think is what's on your mind with this topic? I want to hear what you think.
Yeah, well, so there's this debate out there about go back, history a little bit. You've got a band. They actually have one of the most interesting trajectories of any band I think ever. They started out in the 70s and were extremely popular.
Mm-hmm.
Probably got a little too big for their boots, really, literally. And by the end of the 70s, it all got to their head, the money, the fame, everything. And they'll admit that too.
Mm-hmm.
But, then you get into the Dynasty era and they're doing some disco and things like that. So, it was kind of pushing some fans away
Mm-hmm.
from that. And then they really messed things up around starting in 1980. You got the Unmasked era,
Right.
which when that album came out, it was, I didn't even buy it.
Really? Okay.
The reviews were so horrible. It was like, I don't even want to, get near it. I bought that album maybe 35 years later,
In the bargain, like in the bargain bin, basically.
Yeah, no, I got it in the mid 2000s, I think.
Okay.
That's how long it took me to get that album, and I actually like it now. I would have hated it back then.
Yeah. I can understand that.
Yeah, you have to you have to look at it as not Kiss, basically.
Right.
Especially if you lived through that era, and you're a fan of their older music, and then you're like, what the heck is this?
Mm-hmm.
It's just terrible, but if you take it for what it is and don't really think of it as that era of Kiss, it's, I kind of like it. And then the following year you get The Elder, which came out in 1981, which really put the nail in the coffin. Back then that was just universally trashed, and they even hate the album to this day.
Right. Yeah.
They were trying to do a concept album and it just basically flopped. You had, Pink Floyd's The Wall, and they were trying to get that kind of sound, and that they were trying to get credibility with the critics, which they never had.
Right.
And so they were trying to do this, and it just totally fell on its face, and it didn't sell and everything else. So now you're looking at 1982, 81 to 82, and I think it was the first time they didn't play in North America. They may have played one show, I think, for The Elder. It was just, everything fell apart.
Right.
So they had to group and get back and, get this thing back on track. So then you're looking at 1982 and Creatures of the Night. And so that's kind of leads us to our question. Now, they brought in two different players at this point. You had Eric Carr, who took Peter Criss's place, sort of, because Peter was sort of checked out around Dynasty. He played on one song on that album, and then you had Anton Fig play on everything else, and he was like a session drummer. He
Right.
played on Ace Frehley's solo album. So you
Okay.
had,
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
right, and but they didn't want anybody to know that, so it was, uh, we all thought it was Peter Criss. I mean, he's on the cover of the album and everything else, and they try to keep it top secret
Hmm.
as long as they could. And Ace too. I mean, they even have, like, for example, if you look at Creatures of the Night, you got Ace on the cover. He didn't even play on this album.
I was gonna say, was it no songs or one song, if that? Yeah, it wasn't much at all. With
No, he
him.
didn't. He didn't play at all on
Okay.
Creatures.
All right.
But you have Enter Eric Carr of around, well, right after Dynasty, yeah, before Unmasked. So he,
Mhm.
no, actually it would have been after Unmasked because Anton Fig plays on Unmasked.
Okay.
But you got Peter Criss pictured on the cover.
Hmm.
And in fact, it's interesting because on the cover art, he's actually winking on the one little frame of the cart. It's a cartoon
Yeah,
thing.
like the comic, or like
Like,
a comic strip, kind of.
yeah, and I think the artist had said that he, kind of caught wind that Peter was leaving, so he wanted to put a
Okay.
little signal that something was awry here. Yeah, see if,
Okay.
anyone pick up on it,
Yeah, I
but he
never
had
heard
him
that
winking
story.
on
That's
one of
cool.
the frames. Yeah, so, but that was his sort of, I'm out of here kind of thing. So, after Unmasked, you got Eric Carr in the picture. Now he did the tour with them, but again, I don't think they played in the States. It was all like
I was gonna.
Australia, Europe, everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I know that they tried the tour here in America, but the sales were horrible. Like ticket sales, and you could even say the album sale as well. But for me though, I would say that's probably their strongest, for me, their strongest makeup album that they had. It's probably my favorite makeup album.
Which
I
one?
love Creatures of the Night.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about Unmasked.
Oh no, no, yeah, no. Yeah, no, we're
Yeah.
talking
Well,
about, yeah, creatures. Okay,
yeah. The
yeah.
creatures they got back to being heavy and let's just get back to our roots kind of thing.
Mhm.
So you have Unmasked, you have Eric Carr on the tour, but not on the album. And then on the Elder, you have Eric Carr. That's his first appearance with the band.
Mhm.
So if you can imagine, he wanted to play heavy stuff, and they're
Oh yeah.
showing him all. He's got to play all this crap. Which let me say that again. I didn't get the Elder till 30 years later too. But
Mhm.
I actually kind of like that record too. But again, it's like you got to take it for what it is. And I
Exactly.
think when
Yeah.
you look back on things, it's easier to digest than when you live through it because it was just
Because
I
you're
wasn't gonna go
really,
over it all when
yeah,
you're
you're really
waiting to
excited
hear.
for that release. It's for the release of the album. You have a specific thought of what that release is going to be. Yeah, so I get that, because I'm like that with a lot of albums as well. Like albums that I didn't like 10, 15 years ago, I'm like, wow, this might be the best album in their catalog. It's weird how that works out. So,
Yeah,
but yeah, keep going here.
yeah. So the Elder, and that was that kind of was a wake up call for them to get back on track and go back to basics. So uh, that's kind of leading up to where we are at with the topic, really.
Mhm.
Um, Creatures of the Night, they're scrambling to get things. They got Ace on the cover. Again, he doesn't play on the album. You got Eric Carr in there, and he's solid as a rock. He's kind of, you know, he's probably really happy that they're playing heavy stuff again.
Yeah.
Um, but they end up through connections. I think it was their producer, Michael James Jackson, and they actually had him change his name to Michael James Jackson because so you wouldn't get confused with
Right.
Michael Jackson, the other Michael Jackson.
Yeah, I
Um,
could see that happening.
yeah, right. So, music business and all that. But he apparently hooked him up with this singer-songwriter named Vinny Cosano,
Hmm.
and well, there you go. And well, of course, he changed his name to Vinnie Vincent when he finally joined Kiss. But he was really just there to write songs and help them to get back on track.
Hmm.
So I guess if you're saying, well, who saved Kiss? Who was the one that Is there, some catalyst that got them back on track? I think if you got to pick between the two of them, and that's fair to say, because they were the ones that changed, they were the changes that happened during that
Right,
era.
right.
To
Yeah.
me, it's Vinnie Vincent because
Okay. Wow. Okay.
again, there,
I wasn't expecting that from you, but yeah. Okay. Go ahead. I like to hear. I want to hear this.
yeah, well, I think Eric Carr would have kind of gone along with whatever they wanted to do. I think. I mean, he just was happy to be there, and that was his whole thing. He was apparently really good with the fans. He
Mhm.
was really humble, down to earth, and you know, again, he wasn't gonna.
He's quite versatile as well, musically.
Oh
He could
yeah,
play anything. Like what you're saying with Vinnie Vincent. He kind of he knows he has an edge to him, so to speak. With Eric, he could play anything. He could play hard stuff. He could play softer. He's quite versatile. With his playing. But yeah, I think I kind of know where you're going with this. So yes, please keep going.
yeah. No, Eric Carr was a great drummer, and he's perfect for the band, really. But I think what you have, I'm really the catalyst here is the most important factor to me is the songwriting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because you had, I mean, some of the songs in this album, you've got, and I don't have the credits here of what Vinnie Vincent was part of, but he's all over this record. I mean, you got War Machine, you got I Love It Loud, Creatures of the Night. The whole record is pretty strong stuff.
Even the ballad "I Still Love You" is really really good.
Yeah, I think that was that more Paul Stanley.
Yeah,
Vinny
Paul
had something
Stanley
to do.
sings that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely. But they had some co-writers on the album too. They were. I
right.
think
Right.
Brian Adams wrote with them too as
I
well.
think I heard that as well. Yeah, I
Mm.
can't bear. I don't know that 100%, but I think I did hear that as well.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say, just with the songwriting he brought in, and that at that point, and then you know bring the heaviness into the picture
Mm-hmm.
was really, they just needed a total change, and they needed somebody outside the band, I think, really, that to do it. And then really, and that was sort of what spawned their 80s. I mean, Creatures didn't sell that well at first, I don't think. And I
Right.
don't think
Yeah.
they had that great of attendance on their tour
Exactly.
at
Yeah.
first, but it did set them up, which I should probably say there's maybe one thing even more important that saved Kiss down the line a couple of years, maybe a year later.
Okay. Yeah.
And
All
that
right. Yeah.
is, uh,
Yeah. Go ahead.
well, when they took the makeup off.
Okay. All right. That's a good point. That's a good point as well. Just to verify here, it looks like Vinnie Vincent lead guitar on Saint and Sinner, Keep Me Coming, Danger, I Love It Loud, Killer, and War Machine. So
Yeah.
okay, and
Yeah,
then
they had,
yeah, they filled in a couple others on some of the other tracks, some other guys as well. But yeah, that he
yeah,
did a good amount, at least half the songs there for lead guitar. So
he did. He did. But they had, was it, no, I was thinking of the other, Rick Derringer. He was on this album. Look
okay,
it up.
all right,
He
I
was on
wasn't aware of
Exciter.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think Creatures, they also have like Robin Ford is on a track. I mean, they
Yeah,
have
yep, I saw
the
his
guy
name.
from Mister on Creatures of the Night, the first track.
Yes,
So they had some different guys, soloists. But I think with Vinny's, his songwriting really kind of helped get them over the edge, I think, kind of got them on the right track, along, of course, with everybody else. They all wrote, but
right, yeah.
I,
It helped bring that metal edge back to the band because, like, I'll say right now, I'm not the biggest Ace Frehley 70s Kiss fan. Not I like Ace Frehley. I saw him live. I love his solo stuff. But for me, I'm not I will take the 80s Kiss all day, every day, twice on Sunday over the 70s stuff. It's just something different. I think this is what we're talking about here. We're in the middle of this era here, going right up to Lick It Up here. These 4 album spans, Creatures of the Night, Lick It Up, Animalize, and Asylum, that's that span there is the heaviest that they ever were, before or after, in my opinion. So
Revenge was pretty heavy.
okay, yeah, that was pretty heavy. But if we have some time, I want to hit that just a little bit, that album. But because I have some things to say about that, which might shock some people. But yeah, for me, these 4 albums here are probably the heaviest that they done before and after. And obviously, like you said, Revenge is heavy as well. But yeah, please go ahead to moving on here to Lick It Up.
Yeah, and that's more Vinnie Vincent and songwriting by committee, that kind of thing. But I think the main thing with that is that, again, that was where they took the makeup off. And I think, yeah, you got the LP, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and that's Vinny's wearing a wig, by the way.
I always heard different stories on that, but I just, it is what it is. It does kind of look like it, when people say you can't, there's not much evidence to deny it, but yeah. Vinny, man. I mean, we can all say what we want about Vinny, how he is personally now and even then, but that guy had like such great guitar playing ability for about 6 years, and you never heard of him ever again. So, but yeah, now I agree with you there. Lick It Up though, and with the makeup though too, we can hit on that point a little bit if you want, which was important at the time because the makeup, you can say, was getting stale. People were kind of tired of it. It wasn't shocking anymore, you could say, because you're at what, 80, 83 here. So you're right around almost 10 years or so, maybe a little less, but it just wasn't in, which I love the aesthetic look of the makeup, but it just was a change that needed to happen.
Yeah, it was the right thing. The timing was there, and all the hype, and I think people just, at first they just wanted to see him without the makeup. I mean, they did a pretty good job of hiding it for years. I mean, there are some pictures that snuck out, but that's pretty amazing. Now, of course, that was before the internet. Of course, they couldn't do it now.
Exactly.
Nothing's secret, but you look at the front. I remember seeing that in stores, when it came out. Like, I was just fascinated that I'd never really seen him without makeup.
Right? Yeah,
I know which one's Gene.
I was gonna say. I mean,
the tongue, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, you can argue that the makeup was definitely a positive for them, for the most part, as a band. So, I agree though. I think if want to hit a little bit here on the beginning of Lick It Up, Exciter and Not for the Innocent, that's some heavy stuff. That's, you could argue, heavier than right up there, if not heavier than anything on Creatures of the Night. This whole, and then you got obviously the mainstream hit, Lick It Up, very easily digestible for any rock or metal fan. But yeah, I mean, I would probably say I like Creatures as an album overall more, but just the heaviness. Dance All Over Your Face is a real good Gene song as well. But yeah, this is more important in the catalog, I would say, to Kiss than Creatures of the Night. I prefer Creatures, but yeah, and you could hear Vinny's like his fingerprints all over this though too, his style of playing. So
yeah, well, they had to sort of keep the reins on him a little bit, because if you listen to what he, when he in the Vinnie Vincent Invasion, he's just like uncontrollable.
That's some beautiful stuff. That's like beautiful chaos, right? But I understand now. You can't listen to it more than one album's worth at a time, or even some people one song at a time. But yeah.
I mean, it's definitely sounds dated now, but I mean, I like it,
Oh
but
yeah. I mean, I like to think like any guitar player or someone is like wanting to be a guitar hero cannot like that album. It's like he's doing all this work, he's doing all this craziness. I would just kind of think a guitar junkie would gravitate to something like that. So I may be off, but because I'm more of a bass player than a guitar player, but yeah. So
yeah, no, I think that's fair to say. I mean, you see especially if you rewind to that era, everything was about extremes, you know,
exactly.
and extreme too. No pun
Yeah.
intended. I mean, extreme, Nuno was great,
he
but I mean,
was, he was.
but it was about super shredding and,
Hmm.
like I think it might have, honestly, I mean, there were some things that led up to all of that falling off a cliff. The early
Right.
90s when grunge killed everything for about 20 years,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, and I think I tell you what, it was as a guitar player, I was teaching back then too.
Hmm.
And I noticed it was a lot easier to be a teacher when you had to teach Nirvana,
I could believe it. I
Pearl
could.
Jam, and Pearl
Didn't
Jam
have
was
to.
probably more
Yeah, didn't have
technical
to
because they had
teach.
leads.
Yeah, didn't have to teach solos as much. I would imagine.
Well, you go from Metallica, all this. Well, these kids are still into Metallica. I mean, Metallica. That's a funny thing. There was Guns N' Roses and Metallica that kind of survived all of that.
Right, but
About
they
and
came.
Slayer and the real
Yeah, but
heavy.
they came with a facelift as well. They survived it, but you.
Metallica did, yeah.
Yes.
Well, Guns N' Roses they imploded, but you know,
Yeah, they held on there. They held on. You can't complain with what, but Metallica, that's a whole different story. So,
yeah,
but I
we're
wanted
going off
to.
the rails here a little
Yeah, I was
bit.
gonna say I want to reel this back with another member possibly. I want to throw in the mix. I don't know if people might
Hmm.
agree with this or it might just be a little too late. Mark St. John. Is there a way that he could? I mean, because you can't really say he saved anything for the most part because Lick It Up was a huge success. So, like, at that point, you could say Kiss was saved once Lick It Up came out. But I have to say, though, jumping to Animalize, Mark St. John's beautiful on this album. And you want to talk about heavy as well? You could argue a lot of this album is heavier even than Lick It Up. So yeah, I don't know if you have anything to say on Mark St. John there, but
Yeah, well, that story. I mean, and he was more of a shredder. He just wanted to play fast and furious, and
mhm.
they didn't
But he was a
really
little more
like. They were,
technical there than Vinny. You think?
um, yeah. Well, on those albums, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
He was
yeah.
more. I mean, he was more. I remember when that came out. I was like, wow, they got a good. This guys can play.
Hmm.
I never really thought that about Vinny because he doesn't really do that much on the Kiss albums, really.
Right,
Like
right,
Lick It Up and Creatures. Like I said, they kind of reined him in. I was more talking about his songwriting.
exactly.
Great,
Okay.
great songwriter. Apparently a really good singer too, but he
Hmm.
got a lot of talent. But then when Animalize came out and I heard Mark St. John, I was like, wow, they got a shredder in the band.
Yeah, yeah,
So
exactly.
he kind of brought the temperature up a little bit, but it didn't work for them because their personalities clashed big time, and they. I don't know the whole story, but he
Yeah,
didn't
I see.
last too long.
That's
But
yeah. Mark St. John has a quick, and he also got hurt, or he got the car, like some kind of
it was like a
uh
wrist injury where he
yeah,
couldn't
or yeah,
play.
some kind of disease in his wrist where he couldn't play anymore,
Mhm.
and that's a shame. But I think also, if I remember correctly, he was more of a bluesy type player than say even Ace Frehley or Vinnie Vincent for that matter. And that's why it could have also not worked. I also heard that be thrown around and just Because even like the song "Lonely is the Hunter" or "Lonely the Hunter," yeah, "Lonely is the Hunter." That's a very bluesy song for Kiss. And Mark's just shredding in the solo, and it's a real mid tempo bluesy song, and it's really really good. It's I repeat that song every time I hear it. It's so good. But yeah, I think like what you said, Mark St. John just wasn't a good fit for Kiss, and that's a shame because and obviously his health, he wasn't going to be a part of Kiss for any longer because of that anyway. So, but yeah, I'm a fan of Animalize as well. I think like I said, he just only played on one album, so he gets overlooked a lot, and I just wanted to bring him up just you know just for what you thought about him. So
Yeah, I thought he was, like I said, I liked him when he came out. And, I didn't know all the internal problems they were having and so forth. And then he got that injury. I remember hearing about that.
mhm.
I would say this, if anyone, he didn't save them, but he probably solidified him as Bruce Kulick.
Okay, then that's where we're gonna head with now with Asylum then, I believe here.
Yeah, they're
Uh,
right.
I know I'm starting to sound like a broken record, but like I said, these four albums span here is heavy because you got the first track, King of the Mountain. That's a heavy song.
Mhm.
You're right back into Animalize and heavy stuff to Lick It Up. Uh, it's just really good. And then you also have the easily digestible stuff. Who Wants to Be Lonely, and Tears Are Falling, All Night. Very good. You have in these four albums here, you have a good mix of that very digestible mainstream rock sound with stuff that will please the heavy kill 'em all people too. So I think it's a good mix. This was a really good era for Kiss and very underrated, even though there are two camps that, like me, that love the 80s and not so much the 70s, but you always get more of the 70s fans. But I just think this is just so underrated era and just gets overlooked just because of the way they looked or dressed at the time, which is no crazier than slapping a whole bunch of makeup and demon, shoes on. Like it's just one extreme to the next. So what's the big deal? But yeah, I mean, I think Asylum's a really good album. Not my favorite of the era, but still very solid. And Bruce does a good job on it as well, I think.
Yeah,
So
well, he was also apparently very compatible. Like his reputation is he's always on time, he's serious, professional,
yes.
even to this day, I've heard that. So you and let's face it, bands are made up of personalities, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I actually saw this quick uh, little interview clip of Tommy Thayer. They were
Okay.
talking to him, the current Kiss guitar
Right.
player. And he brought up a point that really kind of hits home exactly what I'm trying to say is he says, Gene and Paul, they have big egos.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they're not always easy to deal with, but and you're watching this interview, but you can tell he's kind of a laid back, kind of serious, you can tell that if you get somebody that their personality fits with that, it's not going to clash,
Mm-hmm.
then it can work out fine. I mean, they
Right.
can, his point of view was they got big egos, but they earned it. I mean, they're Gene and Paul,
Yeah,
so you can
exactly.
imagine if you get a chance, and he was like, they've given me every opportunity, and this is amazing what they've, you can tell that that point of view is perfect
Mm-hmm.
because that kind of person is going to understand their role in the band.
Exactly.
They're going to be happy to be there. I mean, that doesn't mean, if you're unhappy, maybe you need to leave, even if you are famous and rich and everything else. But,
Mm-hmm.
if, if you have that kind of laid back personality or whatever, and you fit in when you're okay with these guys that have big egos and you understand why they do, that can go a long way. And that's probably why he's been in the band, what, 20 some years, I think, 20
Yeah.
years,
Yeah.
you
It's
know?
just they kind of look at it more as a job, and I would say Thayer and Singer kind of look at it more as a job than anything. But
They might, yeah.
Yeah, they're not coming in to try to take a piece of anything either, like, which comes down to the ego. So, but yeah, good,
Yeah, and
classy on their part, and they, like you said, they know what to expect with Gene and Paul. Who doesn't know what to expect with that? So, but yeah,
yeah.
definitely. Do we want to hit a little bit on just Crazy Nights, and Revenge, or and Hot in the Shade? Do you want to
Oh,
hit on
just
any of them real
yeah,
quick?
quickly. Crazy Nights. That one gets panned a lot.
It does, and I am gonna be right with you if you think it's a little underrated.
I am there. I like it.
Okay.
I think Crazy Nights is a good album. I think it's a little more poppy,
Yes, it's certainly
but
not. It's certainly not in the vein of the last four albums. They definitely went AOR, hair Bon Jovi type deal sound, more mainstream, but still really, really good stuff. You still got Eric Carr, and Bruce is still doing good guitar work, good digestible hits. Turn on the
yeah,
Night's really
I think
good.
it's kind of the '80s version of Unmasked
Okay.
radio.
Yeah.
In other words, it's poppy, fun, and terrible at the same time. It's like, I mean, there's some, yeah, how do you put this? There's sometimes look, music at the end of the day, right, is entertainment.
Right.
Okay, so it can be funny or just there's some music, right, that you don't take super serious, but you still like it. It's
Oh
kind of
yeah,
like
yeah, exactly.
it's like guilty pleasures or something.
Yeah, it's got to keep your attention. It's got to make you happy at the end of the day. So if that's what it does, that's what it does, and you can't fight it, man. You can't fight it, no
Yeah,
matter how much everyone wants to hate this.
it's
A
right.
reason
It's
to
like
live, dude. A reason to live is a good
yeah,
ballad. I'm
it
not
is.
gonna art. I'm not gonna. I mean, I guess I'll fight somebody over, but I don't want to. It's just a good ballad. So
Right.
it's a good
Title
album.
track's good. It's there's a lot of good stuff on there.
Right now, let me throw this at you here. Hot in the Shade.
I, yeah, and that one gets a reputation on the downside.
I agree.
I think it's
And
uneven. I tell you why it is, right?
yes,
It's too
yep,
damn long.
it is. It is. And
Too many
that's
songs, too much filler, and not enough killer.
exactly.
I mean, they could have taken what's it got like 16 tracks? It's
I think it's
ridiculous.
15. I think it's 15 tracks, yeah.
They
Because
could
you
have
got
paired it right.
yeah, because you got two songs that Eric Carr sings on.
Yeah, Little
And Little
Caesar, I think.
yes, Little Caesar, and one of the other ones at the end. I can't remember what it
I
is.
don't remember. That's a good
But
trivia
dude,
question.
oh my gosh, Little Caesar, that's one of my favorite Kiss songs. I Eric Carr is a great singer.
Yeah, he
If
could. Yeah,
dude,
yeah.
if Paul Stanley would have got hurt or like something with his vocals, he Eric Carr could have took over, and I think Kiss fans would have been. I mean, they would probably still complain about it, but but he would have been more than capable of filling in nicely. Not saying he sounds like Paul, but just a good overall singer though. Very very good. So, but I agree with you. The
Oh,
album's way
he
the
used to apologize to Peter for singing Beth. They told
that's
back in the
right.
day he said you got to sing Beth live, and he was all worried. But yeah, he could definitely sing. That was another dimension of it. He could play drums like no one's business, but he
Exactly.
also could provide the backup and do Peter's stuff.
Right,
And
right.
Eric Singer too, I believe. He does Beth too, doesn't he? I mean, I don't know. I mean, not
I
that
think he
that's
does actually. Yeah, I forgot all about
live
that.
anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, what did they do? Did they do a remake or something with
Oh, with Eric Carr, yes,
Carr?
on the Smash Thrashes and Hits.
Smashes, trashes, and hits or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
yep. What
Yeah.
which I'm glad you reminded me of that because there let's put the X and Sex. That's actually probably my favorite 80s Kiss song, to be honest with you. Or at least one of the singles songs. But God, I love that song. They just had there was something with the songwriting or just the attitude or tone or something with the 80s Kiss that worked. Was it because Kiss is always a bubblegum, you can say like a bubblegum type rock and roll band. Nothing, you're just gonna get the basic stuff thrown at you. But with the 80s stuff, it seemed like it just got more technical, and with the help of Vinnie Vincent and Eric Carr, obviously, uh, it just got better. I don't know. I just don't understand the hate for the 80s stuff. And I'll stand behind the 80s stuff all the time. And I just don't understand it.
Yeah,
So
like I said, well, they're one of the few bands that were able to successfully do that. You know, they basically are like a chameleon. You know, they
right.
changed for each era,
Mhm.
and that doesn't work most of the time. Can you imagine like AC/DC doing that? You know, changing?
Yeah.
No, all
Yeah.
their albums sound the same, but we
Yeah.
love it, right? I mean,
Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
you know. So I mean, but Kiss is probably the most radical. I mean, they started out as a hard rocky, kind of, the
70s
makeup
hard
thing,
rock or like,
70s hard rock.
yeah.
Yeah, wasn't really metal. Back then it was called metal.
Right.
And then the 80s, they basically just transformed into what was going on at the time, really. I didn't no, I thought they were good, but I kind of lost interest. But then I was moved on to, the Iron Maidens, the Judas
Exactly.
Priest and all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
still, but they were, they revitalized they were on the way out. The Elder was,
Oh,
they
yeah.
were they
Yep.
were gone, and then they came back really, really strong. And then, then you get to the 90s, even you get Revenge, after that.
Exactly.
And that's a
Which was, I
pretty
was gonna
heavy
say,
song.
wrapping up pretty much the I guess they did Carnival of Soul, or
Well,
yeah, I guess it
Carnival of
was Carnival of
Souls was
Souls.
like a grunge album, their
Yeah,
grunge album.
which we don't need to talk about that one, because that they kind of, it would, that I don't even know if they really consider, they don't even really talk about that album. I guess rightfully so, but yeah, but say in finishing up the discography, or what we're going to talk about with the albums, tell me a little bit of something, what you think about Revenge.
Well, it's a pretty good follow-up, really. Made in the Shade, right? So you have
Yeah, I guess you
Revenge,
could
and
say
they're
it was a positive, but let me throw in, because I know this isn't going to be very liked. I don't care for Revenge. I'll take any of the previous 4 albums, or 5 albums, 6 albums, over Revenge. I think there are some good stuff. Like I said, God Gave Rock and Roll to You. That's great. Unholy is good, but I think you're getting back to like the real bubblegummy stuff, and some of the lyrics here. Like, Every Time I Look at You, that ballad's not very good. I think I'll Take Forever, and I'm not a big Forever guy. Like, and I Just Wanna was one of the singles. I think that's kind of corny. Like, I think that's corny, and also Domino doesn't really do nothing for me. See, like, you're looking at most of the singles here, or half the singles, that just for me doesn't. You're kind of forcing something. It's just, I don't know, that's kind of how I think. But I just read something here that I wasn't aware of. Vinnie Vincent is credited with Unholy on this album. With
Yeah, yeah. I think they did bring him back to write some more stuff with him.
Did they? Okay, all right.
I think I did hear that. Yeah.
Okay, and it also says guitar intro on Unholy as well. So I was not aware of that. Okay, all right, that's pretty cool. But
Yeah.
but yeah, for me though, it also has Tommy Thayer here on backing vocals. That's interesting. So
Yeah, I think he was the guitar tech or something for a while, or
right, yeah,
bass or
okay,
something. And, he was waiting in the wings.
yeah, yeah.
Well,
But
he played in a Kiss tribute band before
okay,
that,
that's right.
so
Yeah.
he got a lot of experience.
Well, there you go.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah,
yeah, so what we need to answer, because I had no clear cut answer when we started this video on who I think saved Kiss, because I love Eric Carr and Vinnie Vincent about the same in general. Uh, but so you're going with Vinnie Vincent then?
yeah,
Man, I just love Eric Carr and just his longevity. I think his longevity is to be said about something too in Kiss. Because but we are talking about the key word is save though. Save. And you can't argue with the record sales of Lick It Up too. I'm gonna have to just go with my brain on this one and say Vinnie Vincent with you. But my heart says Eric Carr. My heart says Eric Carr, and what a cop out answer. But
Well,
it's honestly though, I love Vinnie Vincent, his solo work and his work with Kiss. And that was originally my thought was Vinnie Vincent. But then the more I thought about like the longevity and just the greatness of Eric Carr, I was like, man, this is actually a lot tougher than I thought. So yeah.
well, there's one other option. You could say they saved themselves.
Yeah, because at the end of
I
the
mean,
day, it comes down to Gene and Paul too.
group effort, right? I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
somebody had to steer the ship in the opposite direction.
Yeah. And they say what goes too. It doesn't matter how great Vinny was on the songwriting or the playing. If Gene and Paul said, no, that's not going on the album, we would have never heard how great Lick It Up was. So that's one way to look at it as well. But yeah, I think Vinnie Vincent is going to get most of the votes. If we're logically thinking about this in the terms of save. So yeah, so that was a pretty good video here. So guys, let us know in the comments who saved Kiss in After the Elder or after Unmasked. Let us know what you guys think. So also we want to thank Chris for coming back on the show. Thank you, brother. You always insightful. We always love to have a guitar player on, and one that can shred and can help tie up some loose ends here. So and so guys, also subscribe. We will definitely be having more content, be having more interviews. Chris will be coming back, and we're gonna be having all kinds of new stuff for you guys. So until next time, guys, that's Chris. I'm Krash, and thanks for watching.